So I want to talk to you about Nikola Tesla. This is not a biography on his life. It's not a Edison versus Tesla debate. It's a tribute video, a thank you video where I'm going to highlight points that I think were interesting about him, because there's still so much that we can learn from his story. The world totally undervalued what he achieved and what he contributed. So this is kind of like a bit of a dedication to him, and I've wanted to do this for such a long time because I'm a huge fan of him. I'm a huge fan for what he stood for. I first came across his work years ago when a friend of mine who is an electrical engineer reached out to me, and he told me that I would find him very, very interesting, which I did. And it was only after a few minutes of really reading about him that it was very obvious that he was a much more evolved soul. He was at a much higher level of consciousness, and it's someone that you really have to discover for yourself, because they don't teach you about him in school. It's hard to find information about him. It's almost like they don't want you to know about him, what he did, or that he even existed, which, may very well be the case. This world has this habit of taking beautiful and interesting minds and taking them for granted. An inspirational person, a person worth looking up to, doesn't have to be that rich billionaire. It's always that rich billionaire, who's willing to do whatever it took, even if it meant destroying other people in their path to get to the top. There's nothing wrong with money, but it doesn't define the value and grandness of one's soul. An evolved soul, a powerful soul, doesn't always have that interest of being number one, of being at the top, having more than everybody else. I'm tired of the world promoting that, because it's slowly destroying humanity. I admire success and commitment and hard work, but I admire fulfillment even more so. And this is why I admire the story of Nikola Tesla. Nikola was a code hacker, not a bad one. He was a hacker of universal codes, and he was the greatest. He understood mathematics, geometry, frequencies, vibration, energy, and electricity. He spoke this language. He existed as one with it. And it's time for humanity to start learning this language too. Isaac Newton, I believe, had a very similar obsession with understanding these codes, except he wasn't spiritual. To me, that was the missing sort of link in what he was doing in his research. He couldn't fully connect. And when I say spiritual, spirituality, I'm not referring to religion or ideologies or anything like that. I am referring to anything that affects the human spirit. Things that are beyond what is seen, things beyond the physical matter of this reality. Nikola Tesla was multi-dimensional in this way. We all are, in fact, but he could access it. He saw way more of the spectrum, and he lived a life that allowed him to access more of it. And people thought he was weird because of it. But he wasn't weird. He just accessed more information than others. He probably thought that everyone else was weird because they couldn't understand him. So people then accused him of being evil and meddling with evil and dark spirits and all this type of thing. But just because someone can access more of the spectrum, it doesn't mean that they're actually evil, or evil in their origin, or have evil intentions. He was born with this ability. He was born with that frequency. That was his reality from get-go in entering this world. And I think it's something that all humans can actually attain through higher states of consciousness, which is why I really support learning this language. He wasn't just a man of science also. He didn't even label himself a scientist. He referred to using science in order to achieve his goals. And an interesting point is that he didn't eat meat. He was a vegetarian, and he didn't agree with how humans handled and went about food. He was not in a frequency that could tolerate, I think, even digesting it. In fact, I'm pretty sure that he was aware that food was one of the major causes for human sickness and illness, which is something that we're only just starting to realize today. And to put this into perspective, he was born in the 1800s. This was not common knowledge at all. Because he spoke that language of energy and electricity, he understood food through this process as well. Nikola was not a materialistic man. And this is where the story sort of gets a bit icky, I think, for some people. Everything he earned, he put straight back into his projects. He had the intelligence to be the richest man in the world, to be honest. But I think he was beyond serving that sort of purpose. I think that having those materialistic goals were limiting to him. They were distracting, and I think he knew that it would force him into this system. He would have to submit to it, and I just don't think his soul was on a level where it could even process that. I don't even think he understood, competition. I think he was so beyond the idea of trying to defeat anybody else for any purpose, that we're all part of a collective consciousness. So, you can serve yourself, or you can serve everyone. And serving everyone ultimately, because we're connected, is serving yourself anyway. So why wouldn't you choose that second option? Sadly, a lot of people, particularly ones who rule the world today, sit in that first category of service to self, which is destroying the planet ultimately. And I know there's going to be some that will say, but that's why it didn't work, because he didn't focus on building a business plan, generating capital and investing funds in a certain way to maintain it. No, I don't agree with that at all. It didn't work because our world is built upon a manipulated monopoly system to begin with. And I just don't think he could lower himself to doing that. I think his goals were opposing of that system. I think that's why it didn't work. Because the ones who had the abundance didn't really want to help anyone else at all. They were very comfortable in their little circle of corruption. He didn't fail us, they failed us. And then they robbed us of the chance of having free wireless energy. And they destroy anyone else who even got close to it after Tesla. So in my opinion, Nikola didn't fail because he wasn't a businessman. I don't think he should have to apologize for that. I don't think he failed because he didn't, care to patent all of his inventions. He didn't fail because he didn't die filthy rich. He knew that the information that he was accessing was rediscovering something, in the world that already existed. For example, nobody owns electricity. Why would he try and dominate it when he was so multidimensional? I just don't think he could comprehend that. He simply didn't resonate on a level where, these worldly materialistic pursuits were of a priority to him. He didn't resonate on that frequency. His mission on this planet didn't revolve around self-proclamation or having statues made out of him or stamping his name in history. He knew that there were universal codes that already existed, and he wanted to remember what they were so you and I and all humanity could evolve equally, no matter what race, color, culture, bloodline, flag system that you came under, you know, those petty things that humans obsessively define things with. You know, he wanted humans to access free wireless energy equally without any bias. And I don't think it's very hard to understand that or to have that sort of mentality. It's not hard when everyone equally benefits, unless you are of service to self. Men like JP Morgan took that away from him. They took that away from us. Yet everyone wants to be a JP Morgan, a rich, you know, greedy human who ultimately didn't give a damn about you, me, or our planet and working in harmony with it. And we wonder why humans are just spiraling, you know, downhill. We idolize, you know, people that are willing to destroy anything in their path to succeed. That is the mentality. That is the desired mentality. That's what's pumped out in even books on how to fix your problems, make your way to the top. You know, it's always about money. That's just this system that we're in, this manipulated system that we're in. It doesn't have to be like that. You know, these people get to the top because they actually extract information from people. They hire people with the real intelligences and then they use them. They get them to do things that even these people don't want to do. That's the real truth of it, and it's very, very sad. You know, we're all here to do our part and we each have our own strengths, and I don't care if you think that you don't, because you do. You just haven't taught yourself to acknowledge it. It doesn't mean you have to be on the scale of what Nikola Tesla did. He was very gifted in that way, but your approach, your motive, your intention, the condition of your heart and how you treat others, you know, that matters. You can't take money to the grave, but you will take your karma. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. You know, this is a united act. Tesla couldn't do it on his own because he was too busy working on the codes that others couldn't. He had that responsibility and he didn't neglect it. He loyally played his role and pulled his weight for every moment of his existence here in order to help humans. That's a pretty big damn deal, if you ask me. He didn't give in to the corrupt ways of the system by submitting to these greedy, you know, leaders and corporations who all robbed us of this privilege. And I want to end with my final paragraph that I put in my written blog, and you can access this written blog on my blog site, which is thefreedomcode121.com. I hope you can read that article. I put my heart and soul into everything that I write. But I want to end with this. I take my hat off to you, Nikola Tesla, and may the world never take a brilliant mind like yours for granted ever again. May we be awoken enough to recognize and stand up for the ones who are here to create positive change in this world, and may we support them together, united as one. To be honest, in the end, I think he realized that humankind wasn't ready. They weren't ready for the privileges that he was unlocking. I think that he knew the world was heading towards nuclear sort of warfare. So anyway, that was my blog for Nikola Tesla, and I hope that inspires you to you know, find out what your gift is and what you can contribute to the world in a positive way, because that's what we're all here to do. We can. It's a choice, totally. Service to self or service to others. We have that choice. By the way, I'm still trying to figure out my microphone issues. I'm not very good at it, but hopefully, you know, someone can help me with it soon. So I apologize about not having the best sound quality at the moment. Thank you for understanding.